The 2024 United States presidential election is upon us. And while there are many people already doing early voting or have done mail in ballots and things of that nature, or there are people like myself who already know who we plan on voting for come election day when we go to the polls, there are many people as well who are undecided or have decided to not vote at all as a protest or do a write in or something to that effect. Hey everyone, my name's Christian Verstappen, and I have a lot to say about many things. I want to talk about anti electoralism and you. So, I want to open up by just saying that when Harris and Walz originally announced their, presidency and vice presidency run, I was very, excited for them. It seemed like they were going to do a lot of good for this country, and I still think they will. But I understand that a lot of the momentum they had from the original switch has kind of died down because of rhetoric that they've been using in certain interviews and things of that nature, as well as the fact that unfortunately, while I was hoping it wasn't the case, the DNC, the Democratic Party, kind of gutted the or kind of defanged Harris and Walz, where they're just not really speaking about things that they want to now, and you can tell the difference, especially with Walz. When I mean, you can tell the difference when they're talking about something they're passionate about, like um, the plans to improve the economy and things of that nature, or abortion rights and things like that, versus having to talk about the genocide happening with the Palestinians in Gaza. And let's not mince words, it is a genocide. And the fact that Israel is now expanding into Lebanon now makes the situation even worse. Things are getting tense all across the Middle East because of Israel primarily. And we are just acting like we have our hands tied, like we're not the most powerful country in the world that could end the situation with one phone call. Biden has made it very clear that he's a Zionist, and while I don't believe that Harris necessarily is, neither is Walz, I don't think it really matters because it seems pretty clear that, yes, we're very much beheld to Israel. While I don't think we should be, it's an unfortunate situation that we find ourselves in. That said, and I understand that that is a big reason, probably the biggest reason, why a lot of more left-leaning people are wanting to withhold their vote from Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, whether it be out of a sense of, protest and not voting at all, or writing somebody else in, or, anything else like that, not voting for one of the only two actual potential winners, or voting for the, Green Party and Jill Stein or somebody else. Let's be completely honest about this fact. While I don't, and many others don't like the fact that we are in a two-party system in the United States, we are in a two-party system in the United States. In 2016, I didn't vote at all. And that was the first year I could have voted. I turned 18 in 2016, and I could have voted. But I didn't because I didn't like Trump or Clinton. I also didn't really care or pay attention to politics that much. It wasn't until 2020 that I started actually paying attention and learning about things and all that. So I understand the exhaustion that many people who may be more progressive on social issues or political issues in other ways. I understand that feeling of, well, they're both just as bad or anything of that nature, which I want to be clear, I don't believe that's true. I've said before, and I will say again, I don't think we're going to see a repeat of 2016. I don't feel like this is a repeat of 2016 at all. I'm hoping this is a repeat of 2020 or 2022, where, the Republicans thought there was going to be this red wave and there wasn't. I want to be clear, I don't think that Harris, Walz, the Democratic Party, any of them are perfect or anything of that nature. They, just like any other human, just like any other system or anything, has its faults, have their faults. But if you are a more left-leaning progressive person and you think for a second that it is a good idea to throw away your vote or not vote at all, understand that every vote not for the person that you would prefer to be in office is a vote for the person that you would not prefer to be in office. This is something that I didn't understand, again, going back to 2016. And I would tell people if I did vote at all, I was going to vote third party. Now, I didn't get to vote because when I did finally go with someone to vote, I found I was in the wrong precinct. So, it is what it is. But had I did vote, I would have voted third party because I didn't like either of the candidates. And look where that mentality got us. Not saying that like mine or any one person's vote changes everything. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying your individual vote necessarily changes everything either. But it does matter. And if you're in a swing state, if you're not in a swing state or something, you might think, oh, well, my vote doesn't matter because my state's going to go blue or my state's going to go red. If nothing else, first of all, you don't know. Like, I've been, very open about the fact that I live in Florida. There has been people have thought this state to be Trump country for a while. And it has been, but there has been like all sorts of things I've been seeing on social media and even just out and about throughout the state of areas that have been deeply red, like old people from like the villages and stuff just standing out with like Harris Walls signs and all this other stuff. So if there's hope for a state like this, there's hope for Texas, there's hope for Georgia, there's hope for any of these states that are typically red or have red governors or anything of that nature. Something else to keep in mind, though, too, is that when you do go voting, you aren't only voting for the president. For one, you're also voting for their cabinet when you do vote for them. But more than that, you're also voting for other amendments, senators, other things that might be very important. So you might think, okay, well, I don't want to vote for, Harris because she's going to continue the genocide. And let's be honest about this, she might. I'm really hoping she doesn't. And we have heard that her discussions with Netanyahu has been, according to Netanyahu himself, unproductive, which of course means she's not caving to him as much as Biden is. But if you think that not voting for her and giving Trump more of a chance, if you think him being president would make things better in Gaza or Lebanon or anywhere else that Israel decides to bully or any other country may want to exert their power over, you're dead wrong. It's just not going to happen. There is no, I mean, Trump has been saying for a while that he would, this war would be over. He'd finish the job. Well, what does he mean by that? Well, he'd let, Israel completely lay waste. He wouldn't even pretend to be, acting like he has his hands tied, like Biden does, and like Harris might. But something else that has to be understood is when you're going to vote, you're also voting for things like it has been, made very clear that yes, Project 2025 is a, terrifying future concept from the Republican Party, but also, and so is Project or Address 47, Agenda 47, which is what Trump says he's actually doing. Even if it's not Project 2025, it's still pretty far draconian and very, very far right and very still in that ballpark of Project 2025, even if it's not that specifically. Now, he's lying, of course, when he talks about how, I'm not associated with Project 2025, but even if he wasn't, Agenda 47 wouldn't be any better. But it's been made very clear that abortion is on the ballot. 100% it is. And even if you go in and you think, okay, well, I don't want to vote for Harris because of Gaza. Okay, what about abortion rights? What about protecting IVF? What about legal marijuana, for example? That's something. that she's been talking about and pushing for as well. In my own state, there are amendments and there are ads being put out for talking about Amendment 3 and 4. Amendment 3 in the state of Florida is for essentially legalizing marijuana, like in the state, or at least putting less restrictions on what people can have. And Amendment 4 is effectively about making it so that the government can't put restrictions on how doctors perform abortion procedures and how patients can go about getting them done. I'm speaking in layman's terms, but I understand that I'm speaking to a national, potentially more than national audience with this. So I'm not going to get into the weeds of what my specific state is doing. But again, you're also voting for senators and stuff, and these people play a big part in the government in general. It's not just the president. And you might also think, oh, well, you live in Florida? Okay, well, then what about the hurricanes that just went through? Which, yes, we did get hit back to back with 2 hurricanes, and it was horrific. And what Helene especially did to not just Florida, but many other states has been an absolute travesty. However, there was $20 billion worth of relief effort that was supposed to go to FEMA before all this happened that Republicans voted against. So if you think, once again, that voting for Trump and having people that he appoints and having Republicans making these decisions in office and everything is a good idea, think again. The hurricanes are a great example, because after that, they decided to sit on their hands and say, "Oh, well, we don't want to vote on we don't want to vote on anything and give relief effort to anybody, any more funding to FEMA until after the election," because they would rather, make no mistake about this, they would rather let people die for political leverage so that they can say, "Oh, well, the Democrats aren't doing too well with the hurricanes," and they would rather let people die rather than put funding toward an organization that will actually help these people, because that's the kind of people they are. And those are the kind of people you don't want in office. Obama has said, and he's correct in saying that nobody should expect the president to just fix everything for the world, because that's not going to happen. He's right. It's not. But it is always better to make progress a little bit. It's better to take, if nothing else, a baby steps forward than gargantuan steps backwards. And make no mistake, a Trump presidency, a second Trump term will have us taking gargantuan steps backwards. A Harris administration may not get us everything we want. It probably isn't going to. I wouldn't expect it to. But it is going to be a hell of a lot better than the alternative. And to anybody that says in regards to that, well, that's just voting for the lesser of two evils. Yes, that's what you do when you vote. You are hopefully getting to vote for things that you really want as well, but you are also voting for the lesser of two evils. That's just how it is. Now, if you're against things like the party system in general, or the electoral college, or any of these things, I'm with you. For the longest time, I was independent. I say for the longest time, from 16 to 20, 23, whatever. I was independent. I only registered Democrat because if I stayed independent, I wouldn't be able to have a say in my in the primaries, because for some reason you can't, if you're, it's ridiculous, but if you're not affiliated with a party, you don't get a say in the primaries. So I'm with you on all of that. If you are thinking those things, or you don't like the party system in general, or any of that, I totally get you. If you think, well, I have friends, family, whatever, I myself am uh, Muslim, Islamic, whatever it may be, right? From the area, or I know people from the area, or whatever it might be, and therefore I don't want to support the continuing genocide. Again, completely understood. And if you think that, and you're thinking, well, the anti-trans stuff, the anti-gay stuff, the forcing religion in schools, all that doesn't affect me. Well, first of all, down the line, eventually it will. And secondly, that mentality just always makes me think of that famous poem by Anne Frank, First They Came. Think about it. They will get to you eventually. The end state of this fascistic mentality of othering everybody ultimately will lead to nobody else being left to other. Sure, they'll start with the trans people, but do you think they won't go after the gay people? The people who, I don't know, just are living out of wedlock with a partner that they're having consensual sex with, or any of these other things. If you think they're not going after contraception, all of these things, you're very mistaken. Sooner or later, they will come after something that you specifically, or people that you specifically care about, or maybe even you specifically. Now, I understand as well that Harris and Walz are not doing too great right now on immigration issues. They're talking about wanting to continue, essentially, completing the wall. They talk about this bipartisan stuff all the time. And here's the thing. I am just as annoyed as you are by the nonpartisan stuff they're talking about, by the endorsement of Liz and Dick Cheney, and all these never Trumpers all of a sudden wanting to, vote for Harris. I get that. But you have to understand, it's valid. We need people on our side. I think a lot of people look at things like voting and, electoralism, politics, all that stuff, all these things in general as a moral purity thing, maybe even a test of some sort. And they think, well, I can't vote for this person because that goes against my moral values, my moral beliefs, my whatever. It's like, be practical about this. Choose the option that is going to actually make your life and other people around you's life better, or at the very least, prevent them from getting worse. And for people that say, like, oh, should we not care about other countries? Should we not care about foreign policy? Of course we should. We absolutely should. But even if, and I'll play devil's advocate here, even if Trump and Harris actually were just as bad on Gaza, which they aren't, Trump will be far worse. Anything that you think that Harris is going to be bad on, like Gaza or immigration or whatever, Trump will be far worse. I can promise that. But also, even if that was true, where they were equally bad, then yes, I'm sorry, but voting for the person that's going to make things better for you and your country personally, better than the other option, is still a better choice. Would you rather have things be really bad in multiple places or one place? And I understand that, like, you can hear that and think, oh, that sounds selfish, that's whatever. No. I am a cis-het white male. I am very far from any of the groups that would be attacked for anything, except that I'm, an outspoken person who does social and political commentary. So, again, first they came. But I have friends that are trans, friends that are minorities, friends that smoke weed or would like to do so, or would like to open their own shops and all kind of things like that. So I will be voting for things like, you know, making weed completely legal. I will be wanting that to happen. I will be wanting things to get better for the LGBTQ community and all these other things, because even if it doesn't affect me personally, and even if it doesn't affect you personally, it will affect your loved ones in some way, shape, or form. And in regards to parental planning and things of that nature, again, if you are a cishet male, I think that's still pretty important for you. No matter what you are, no matter if you're gay, straight, trans, bi, non binary, no matter what your race is, no matter what anything, this will affect you. And if you think, well, I'm part of the, protected class in some way, okay. And I don't mean protected as in like, I mean you are white, or you have some kind of political or social, privilege in those ways. Okay, I guarantee you, this thing plays itself out long enough, the right will find a reason to be against you, or things or people you care about. It's just inevitable. It will. This The good thing about fascism and these things in general is they will inevitably burn themselves out. The right will inevitably burn itself out doing everything that it's doing. That is 100% true. But do you really want to live through those fires in the meantime? I know people have been saying this, and it sounds crazy, it sounds whatever. I do genuinely believe democracy is on the line. And I know I feel this way too, about like, oh God, I'm so sick of hearing this is the most important election of our lives every 4 years. But you know what? It is. We are at a point where the right is completely captive. The Republican Party is completely captive by fascistic wannabe dictators. We're not just voting and choosing based on like tax cuts for the wealthy, which will happen. And speaking of tax cuts and just the economy in general, you do understand that if Trump wins, he wants to put a massive tariff on imported goods, specifically from China. But I wouldn't be surprised if he does it for imported goods in general. You know how much stuff we get from China? Most things most things that you probably have in your own house, you get from China. And the fact that we import so much is a good thing. It's because we are the economic powerhouse of the world, that we can afford for other countries to make the stuff for us and buy it from them. Now, I don't condone the horrific practices that are done by many companies to, you know, create these products, but the insane tariffs that Trump wants to place and the Republican Party wants to place on these products would be ruinous. I understand that Harris is not perfect. The Democrats are not perfect. Far from it. But if you only seek perfection and you never allow yourself to take steps toward not perfection, but good enough, effectively, good enough for now, you will never achieve perfection. You have to take those steps and say, okay, this isn't exactly what I want, but this is getting me closer to what I do want. If we waited for perfection all the time, we never would have had the civil rights movement and the civil rights bill and things of that nature. We never would have had gay marriage be completely legalized. We never would have had any of these things because people wouldn't have fought for them and accepted concessions along the way. They would have said, no, we're not accepting anything until it's perfect. And that's not how you do things. you have to work your way up to, and you will never reach perfection. We're never going to reach some like crazy, beautiful, like economic utopia or something, or anything like that. It's just not going to happen. Personally, I would love to live in a world in which whether it was a universal basic income, or it was where nothing, everything important was just provided to you, like food, shelter, electricity, probably even internet at this point, all those things was just provided to you, and you got essentially either an allowance, or you got like, you would work for things that you needed to pay for, like, I don't know, you want to go on like a fancy cruise, or get a new TV, or get a whatever it is, right? Those things you'd have to pay for, but you'd have to work for those things. But the important stuff, the things that you can't just save up for, like you can't save for your bill. Your bill is due when your bill is due, your rent, your mortgage, or any of those things, your car payment, all that stuff. So those things, non-elastic, inelastic goods, would not be things that people would pay for. We would only pay for elastic goods. But I understand that that is like an economic utopia that probably is never going to happen, not only in my lifetime, but if we're honest, ever. But we can always take steps closer to that world. I can always take steps closer to what I think would be better for everybody. You can always take steps closer to what you think would be better for yourself and others. We can always take steps closer. And at the end of the day, this election is about two choices. Either we are choosing to take steps forward in a positive direction, even if that is only baby steps, or we are taking huge steps backwards. The choice is up to you. As always, these are just my thoughts. Let me know what yours are in the comments down below. Follow me on social media for more. Subscribe and ring the bell to stay up to date. Leave a like if you like. And if not, I hope you find something you do like. Later, guys. Peace and love.